in the cloud. Okay, so our agenda today. The first thing is, and we can vote if you want to vote confidentially. We can vote in the TSC group, okay, as we did previously. So I would like to appoint a new TSC member. Um, which who is Chris Foyer. I don't know if everybody worked with him, but he's been pretty active in the working group and gave a session at AI on Pi Day as well. So is anyone against? Uh, we don't have a formal procedure for that yet, so um, I don't know if you want to have a formal procedure for having a new TSC member or we just vote. Any opinion or any second on that?
I don't think it has to extend to formalities beyond this one. I think if we, you bring it to the table and we vote,
Okay.
I think that's
So
for me,
we
that's
want do we want to have a second anyone seconding it?
I will second.
Okay. And then whether we want to vote in the TSC, so I think it's so the vote for like we did last time, vote for Chris to join TSC. So obviously I'm in favor. Okay, so I will tell Chris that he is welcome here. And I think it will be a great addition. And especially as Chris is in the user space as well. This is a little bit where we are lacking some manpower. Second point of the today is I will um promo of ODCS. We need something like 48 star on no, I don't think it's even 48, maybe 38, sorry, stars to be able to graduate to the next level. So if you could shake up a little bit your social networks to to say something as obvious as comments like my open source project, that would be great. Okay, or shares the one I add. Then we would be able to graduate to the next level, which is graduate, I think. And it gives us a little bit more visibility on voting. I think it gives us voting power within the Linux Foundation, which right now we don't have. Um, Marketing opportunities. As I want to remind you that we can market whatever we want regarding ODCS. So if Data Contract CLI is supporting ODCS, please write us a little something and we can put it on the Linux Foundation blog. Okay. Same thing for data caterer, okay, or any other things or a conference or paper or anything. They are here to help us promote what we're doing with the project. Okay, so keep that in mind. We've got up to 1 month, but I'm pretty sure this is not really formal. And it gives you visibility at the Linux Foundation level. Okay, so that was kind of the administrative stuff, and now we have to review the RFCs. Unless anybody else has anything to add before we go there. Okay. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. I think it's going to be easier. So, um, maybe I'll try to time box them, okay? So it's because we have a tendency to talk a lot, so I will try to make sure that we time box them. So servers. I think we made some progress. Simon, do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I reworked the page here, and basically we now have the solution worked out as we decided last time. So we have the service block. Each server has the name server, in this case prod BigQuery. We have the type. But perhaps when you scroll down to the spec, there's a short list here, the bullet points. So there's only the server and the type is required. And when you have specified the type, a list of attributes follow. Like when you have Kafka, you have to specify the topic and the host. And if it's BigQuery, you have to specify the project and the dataset. And some other optional stuff. This is sketched out. This would be ready to roll. There are two open questions. One targets the list of server types and the properties. So does using underscores, for instance. The DCS where we take the other server part, we do a union. But that's a minor detail. We can solve that quickly. The interesting part is more the possible conflict with the physical type. When we have multiple servers, there could be multiple physical types. When you think of it could be in a message in Kafka, and it could be on Postgres with the Postgres type.
Yeah.
I think that's to be solved. Not sure we need to solve it right now. I just realized it when I went through everything. So we need to solve this perhaps in combination with Manuel.
Or we just say we don't solve it for version 3. We can also say that this is something we leave for later. We can also assume some servers, because I know you told me, Simon, that you were working with a customer where that applies a lot. I don't know if I've not seen the case yet where we had really different. I've seen dev and prod, but I've not seen different types. So maybe there's a priority somewhere, or maybe there's a way to create that that the type is. So I don't know. Okay. I left 10 minutes for each RFC to discuss, so I don't want to take all the time. Anyone who wants to add something, or we can just vote.
They just say like we do different types. So we by default you always get PubSub, which is protobuf, and BigQuery table, Google Cloud, which is obviously BigQuery table. But like I don't know if that's standard, but yeah, we do that for almost all our data contracts. But I don't know if it needs to hold up the proposal. Just it's a data point.
Yeah, it might. I agree. It might complicate things, but okay. Well, I think one thing also is that the next step after that is to make the whole document, and maybe we will see other things like that, that kind of a little bit quirky, and that we may have to address at this point. But yeah, let's okay, let's do that. Okay, so are we ready for a vote? Okay, so RFC 2. So
Yeah, let's use say RFC 1, please.
oh, sorry. RFC. I don't know why I was on RFC 1. Okay, RFC 1. It's so easy to change votes. Yeah. Okay, I think it passes. Great. Okay, so Simon, the next step is to integrate that in Dev v3, like we did for types. Okay. Our RFC3. Okay, so there was something like, do we want to do that? Do we want to change it? We haven't made a decision. And I realized that I thought we made a decision, but it looks like we didn't. So do we want to spend like 5 minutes on this one, max? I vote for we leave it as is. Any opinions? Basically, option one is changing stakeholders by product team, and option two is adding a lot of defining directly hard coding the roles, instead of having the roles as a open string. So I would say option 0 is we stay like that. Option 1, we change to product team. Option 2, we change to that. The idea of changing product team is that it makes it clear that the stakeholders don't include the consumers. But if someone wants to use the consumers there, I don't have any problem as well. I just think it's a little bit going to be over maintenance.
Yeah, I'm in favor of change here.
Sorry, Johan, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm in favor of changing stakeholder to product team. I think it makes it more clear.
But technically it should be contract team. So, okay.
Maybe just team.
Well,
Coders kind of meant to be encompassing like engineering teams as well.
it can, the idea of stakeholders there was to be super generic, so we can have anyone inside. Okay, same thing with product team. You could have anyone, but it will be the contract team or team, or whoever you how you want to define it. So maybe one thing is we can agree that option 2 is no go, right? Because we want to have the flexibility. Okay, so that we can say, okay, so it's 0 and 1, and if it's 1, we can eventually change the product team name. It's basically just changing stakeholder to something else. Okay, so I don't dislike team. Product team, it's because it's actually not a product, but it's more like a contract we're defining. I like so
Does this link to the support channels as well?
no.
Okay.
Now the support channels, we wanted to decorrelate them for the support channel and here it's more for if you don't have any support, or if support is not doing its job, you can go find the stakeholders. Okay, or if you've got a question that support, it can also be something that support could use to find the answer as well. But it's the support channel are really more for day-to-day communication. This is more like for ownership. Okay, who designed it, who owns the data. So
from my perspective, I think product is a little bit of a loaded word. Where I am now and where I have been in the past, product denotes product management, the product organization, and it can create confusion between that and data products. So I would vote for something a little bit more generic.
All right, so I'm suggesting that we have 30 seconds. So you vote either S for stakeholders or T for team. Okay, so we move forward on this one. It's not a big deal. So um Manuel, you can't do that. You know I would call on you. Okay. Okay, so it looks like a stakeholder is behind now, and we are going to use a team. Okay, let's go for team. Um, I think that's a good thing. Um,
There's
okay,
also this contact. There was another attribute. I think that extends the standard, but just a minor thing. I'm okay with that.
if someone has another idea on team, he can come back today, and we can have a vote offline. Okay, but otherwise it's going to be team.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, just never mind.
No, okay. I know where
I
you
like
are.
team.
I know where you are. I just wanted
Yeah, okay.
to move forward. Okay. Four. Okay, we went into many directions. Okay. Philosophically, this one, I'll try to time box this one to 10 minutes, but I know that this one may take a little bit longer. Okay. We went into many directions. The thing is, right now, where we are is we all agree on the structure. We just have to agree on the names of the properties. Okay. So we had a discussion in the working group, and I don't know if I can make that bigger. You can actually, yes, great. And that's kind of the consensus we worked in the working group. We were so so the first thing is schema. Okay, it used to be data set, I think, but now it's schema. And then we want to represent a tree. Okay, and to represent the tree, we've got branches and we've got leaves. And the idea was to use object for the branches and attribute for the leaves, and to make a distinction there. And um everything is being under properties. That gives us the most flexible way of storing that. So this is a current proposition on the table. I don't know if anyone else wants to add something, or we just vote on this one. I know this one is a little bit, I would say controversial, but there was a lot of discussion around it. We also have logical type and physical type. Some people were thinking, oh, we could have one default, like type would be the logical type and then physical type, or vice versa. But when we were discussing that, then we realized that we wanted the opposite of Avro, and so I think it's better to have explicit logical type and physical type. Martin wanted to do like something like type logical and type physical, but I think Martin is a little bit too organized um for that, and it's recorded, so I need to be very careful about what I say about Martin. I love you, Martin. Okay.
Just
So
one thing here. The arrays are a bit a special case.
yeah,
Because they don't have properties, they have items. And they don't have a dedicated.
I think that, yeah, that was the ideas. Yeah, that was the idea. But that was this one was an array of objects. Because if you
Sure.
want to have an array with multiple columns in a way, okay, or multiple properties, then that's an array of objects. And I think it works a little bit like that with OpenAPI, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, what I mean is the 2 lines above,
2 lines above.
the attribute X.
Okay, this one.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, attribute colon X.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, because it's not a leaf. So this is where the leaf and the object part doesn't work. Because it's the array is something in between. And you either have to decide it's an object or an attribute. But actually, it's neither really. It's because it's just something different. Because it has items and properties.
Well, we could call it array directly if you want instead of attribute. I don't have a problem with that.
But I read
But
this as it is an attribute actually. It's an attribute of a logical type of array. Is that
It's well, the thing is, basically, when you're thinking about representing a tree gene, okay, you've got the branches and the leaves, okay, so everything, or you can think it as a container versus a final element, okay, and it's true that array is a bit in this situation is a bit out because, like a primitive int, for example, is an attribute, but a table is an object, or a topic is an object, or I mean, the payload in a topic, or the payload in a service is an object, because it's kind of a container, and arrays are like that.
I understand, but the way that I'm looking at it is in relation to its parent object. So like the example of how is this different? How is attribute X different than the example above with street lines? That's also
Well,
street lines as well.
street line here in street lines, it just one attribute. It's a list of string, basically. Even if it's called an array, just a list of strings. Where this one is,
Because it's objects.
yeah, because it has 2 attributes, ID and B. It's an object.
Yeah, in my mind that doesn't break the pattern. Like it's still it's I understand what you're saying. So I guess I'm taking a different, I'm taking a different sort of semantic path with this. It's not really so much the definition of the attribute itself, it's its relationship within the parent, right? If it is an attribute of a larger object, then it can be it's a valid attribute. It doesn't matter what it is.
That's also an approach where a tree, okay, always end with leaves. Okay, there's a branch. There's no branch per se. A branch is kind of just a container, so it needs to contain something. So if you traverse a whole tree, you always end up with leaves.
One quick question. Would you think this applies to nested and repeated as well? So, I mean, in BigQuery, for me, I use a lot of nested attributes, which
Yeah.
are just JSON strings, and they're often they're dynamic, right? It's based on the producer. Not really sure if I'm going to get three values, key value pairs, or 6 key value pairs, or if they're changing. And then obviously repeated is its own beast, which I think introduces some complexity.
Well, it depends if you want to carry the schema down to these attributes or not. Okay, you could just say, okay, at some point this is a big blob, and I'm not, like the old blob in Oracle or any relational database, and you just say, okay, I'm not going to touch what's that. It's just there. Or you can say it's a club, okay, and it's just a big bunch of text, and I'm not going to do anything. But if you want to have structure, then we can imagine that you could eventually specify a JSON schema there, okay, or you can say the object itself is JSON, and here's my schema as a property to it. But it really depends how much you want to define that as a contract level.
Yeah, agreed. I was just calling that out. I mean, for me, there's no way I could actually define those JSON blobs because they evolve and change too
Yeah.
frequently. But I think it's just something that we should be aware of and just make a decision on.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's really, yep. I think we can put that into documentation as well.
Maybe a question: Do we have an example here how this would look like for a plain table, or a single table in our schema
Yeah.
with just a number of columns?
So yeah, I think that's a fair ask. Let me just do that. I'm going to copy it. Which is going to be probably like 90% of the case. So this would be looking something like that, right? So again, let's say I've got an ID. My logical type would be ID, and my physical type could be int, or let's say serial. Something like that. And then I could have I don't know, just name, and that could be a string.
So if you look at line 2 and 3,
Yeah,
I mean, it's a table, but it says it's an object.
we could say something like physical type table, if you want.
Yeah, other line 2, right? I mean, if it says table, my table name, okay, I'm good with it. But if it's a table and it says, oh, it's object, my object name, also, honestly, this doesn't feel right from my point of view.
This is the annoying thing for you.
Kind of, yeah.
What would you replace?
Because like I get what Johan is saying, because in a scenario where it's a topic, the equivalent would be object would be like the topic name, and then you would have like the physical type being topic, and then you have the properties of the actual payload under that. Which is that the case?
Yeah, for me that's why we're trying to accommodate with that. When
Okay.
when Andrew brought up the fact that it was too table centric, okay, so the big focus tried to be on more topic oriented. To be really honest, okay, as a group, and I don't want to push you guys around that, but at the end of the day, it just needs to be clear, okay? It doesn't have to be always a perfect word, and I think that we've been around quite a bit around it, and I think this starts to look like something. So that's why I was thinking that it would be ready for a vote at this stage. So
Yeah, I think it's good. Just wrapping my head around, all the different scenarios of, streaming versus databases versus anything
and,
else.
yeah, and I think we kind of need to move forward, because I'm thinking of you with Data Caterer, and I'm thinking of Data Contract TLI. If you want to adopt this, let's do it rather sooner than later. Because it's a bit of a change here. It's not a major change when you're thinking about one level, but when you're thinking about multi-level and the support for hierarchy, it's a little bit more complex. So, which was not really easily supported in the previous version. I think that's a big change and a big enabler for also, as Sandro said, well, and that's also why I'm grateful for Gene to be here, because of the role in non-structured, in kind of unstructured document as well.
Yeah, and I think this is what I like, the litmus test in my head whenever I look at this RFC is like I always imagine the object being a document with simple attributes until you get to an embedded table within the document, right? Like very often you see in invoices or something, there's a table that needs to be described. So it's kind of flipping that paradigm on its head a little bit. Like we tend to think of this in a tabular design where you have this construct, that has other smaller elements, so to speak, small descriptive elements. And this is kind of the opposite of that. So in my mind, I always try to fit that in and see, well, would this fit? And when we started talking about that with the arrays, that it seemed to fit that that model for me. So I guess it's not really, by that definition, it's not really a tree branch leaf, um, construct that I'm thinking of. It's just more based on just containment and the relationship to a parent. Like in my world, you can have a tree within a branch, I guess.
Yeah. You can have a kind of a subtree almost. Yeah. I'm really bad at analyzing your faces, guys. So, I don't know if you love the idea, if you think it's awful, if we all need to go to back to the drawing board. So do I have a motion to go to a vote, to a second to go to a vote, or we can still? It's true that the vote is kind of, I wouldn't say decisive now, but the idea is to let's go for a vote, and then when we put everything together, as we push to the dev v3 branch with the document all combined, we'll see if there's some kind of incoherent stuff. So as well. So this is for me, I think, elegant enough, and it solves the problems we wanted to address.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's only better than we've got now, and maybe a few little things to work out, but I think it's pretty close to being good. And if we make this V3 and then later we find it doesn't quite fit a particular use case, so we can always change it. It's not set in stone forever. So I'm happy with this personally.
Well, keep in mind this. I mean, the schema is probably the heart of a data contract, right? So we should really be convinced that this feels good for our users. But we can vote, sure.
It is an important part for sure. Okay.
Until we start maybe having people adopting it and using it, we're not going to, we're trying to think through all the different use cases in our head, but until we actually use it in practice, we're not going to catch them all anyway. So I think there's only so much we can do by going round and round on this.
Yeah, we try to have a lot of examples, but of course we're not covering all the potential use case. That's definitely true. So
I agree. We need a starting point, and then we can iterate. I mean, if we strive for something perfect, we'll never release anything.
Hey, so let's vote in in the channel. So okay, please go ahead. And I'm not going to give any names here to preserve confidentiality, but we can, if you want to talk to me about what your issues are, okay, I'm more than happy to have a call, okay, or we can discuss to fine tune that, okay. So um and and Sandro, you can vote too if even if you're not on the on Slack, but then yours will not be confidential. And okay. Okay, great, thanks. Whew, this one was a tough one. Which our next one. Okay, our next one is I don't know if you guys have seen the work that Johan did here, but I think this is really a great piece of work. Okay. I I don't agree with all of that, but I really think that he did really a great work there. And we just started this things for roles yesterday with Simon and Chris when we were in the working group, which is not that big of a change, but I really appreciate that, John. Do we I don't know if you guys have looked at it, but basically it removes all the quirky things that PayPal had, which were specific to BigQuery, for example. But remember, this is going to be actually moved to the server part. And there were some odd things like usernames and password and some specific things also for support. So all of that as kind of a as kind of a uh, um, as kind of changed. Okay, so there might be some fine tuning here. Okay, I guess at some point, especially as we're going to push that to production, but I think it's ready for a vote as well. Um, so uh, and I would, unless someone wants to discuss it more. I'm just trying to be cautious of the time. Anyone seconding for a vote? We can also delay it or make the vote offline if you want. Okay, let's
Yeah,
go
I'd
for
say,
it.
no, sorry.
You're on, you're voting for your stuff. Good.
I am convinced, of course.
No, it's great. No, I'm just kidding you. Okay. Um 6, we did vote, right? No, or did I got that we I've got a we I think we did vote and we went for option B, but I've got a big doubt now. So can anyone remind me that? Because I don't think we didn't record the
I
vote.
think we did vote. I also thought.
Okay, can we just also then maybe if let maybe just take 5 seconds and vote again. Okay. And then here it's B or A. And once more, when we integrate all these things, we might have to fine tune things. For example, there's a few things that are so I think it's B, guys. That went through. And I have not used Todd's vote, but I have what is Morten told me. So for Martin. Okay, so it's going to be B. Okay, and then we record this. Our last one is data quality. So we spent quite some time on data quality. There's option. So there's this. The motivation behind the changes is that we wanted to be able to have 4 kinds of data quality rules. Okay. One is an implicit call to a rule. Okay, and that's valid for option 1 and 2. Now, just the structure is a little bit different. Okay, so if you look, so that's basically you're having something like text. So you just define in a textual way. No, sorry, that's the implicit call is just using a name of a rule. Okay, so that's example, that's option 1 here, and there's an equivalent here as well, which is predefined types. Okay. Then we wanted to have either name parameters or kind of property driven parameters. And then we wanted also to be able to have directly SQL. In option 1, we just put the SQL as a rule there. In option 2, the SQL is more around having a value explicitly mentioned. And this would be kind of 8 different properties based on the SODA thresholds. And then there's also a custom type, which we're not kind of ready yet for, but it will be that. Okay, so the big difference, okay, text is missing in option 1. Sorry, it looks like a bit confusing, but it supports text as well. The big difference really is that option 1 uses name parameters. Okay, so it can be a little bit verbose like that, versus option 2, where you have finite parameters, finite values like that, and there's like 8 of them. And I also have another example that is not there yet. Which we discussed a little bit yesterday, to have more complex examples like that, adding units for some cases. And so what we need to discuss is basically vote for 1 or 2 in the options we have, and then vote for a name for type. Okay, so in option 2 you'll see type. In option 1 it was being called code. We could call it rule, we could call it rule type, whatever, but I think type is a bit too generic for me. And we have the list, that's okay. and vote on 4 as well. But maybe we should first vote on 1 or 2, okay? Just to kind of brush things off. So it's either the big difference is really name parameters versus a list of parameters. And I know I went quite kind of quickly, so if anyone has questions, please.
A quick question on option 2. I do like the ability of simplifying it for end users, and having, lists that might accommodate 80% of the use cases, but that doesn't preclude having custom use cases, right?
Yeah, you can still have custom use cases.
Okay,
I think this is where this custom block comes in. Okay.
right.
And I think we need to flush it a little bit more. But at least I would like to make a motion to move forward with at least that, and then maybe in the final we can add the custom build of custom data quality rules. Yeah. And if you look, there's a link of this threshold. I think, Johan, when you added that, there is a link of this threshold somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's kind of the oops.
Yeah, list of threshold keys.
Keys, yeah. We didn't go there directly. The only difference is we're going to use camel case versus that, and there's this yeah,
Snake.
yeah. And we can probably add a list there as well. Might be a few extensions we want, like let's say a list of country codes, or a list of finite list, small list we wanted. So it's not. I think this one will still have some work on it, to be honest. But at least we move forward. Okay, so are you guys ready for voting at least for 1 and 2, so we can flush things out? Okay, so fine, like it's taking a clear lead. Okay, all right. Wow, unanimous. Okay, it's going to be an option 2. So good job, Johan. And then the other thing I'd like to vote is a name there. Okay, so you see in this example there's a bit of a mix. There is type, there is rule, there was code as well, and I also added rule type there. We are defining data quality rules, okay? So, but it could be something, we could be using rule for the name or the type. So just
Maybe we can have both, right? Like rule is a name, the description, and one of the 4 different kinds, types, whatever.
we can have kind as well if you guys think. I like kind because we've been that's a topmost differentiator anyway. So
Do we use kind in the hierarchical tables as well?
no,
Was it? Oh no. Okay.
we could if we wanted, but it was really in the hierarchical, it was really about the logical type of the physical type. So that's why we don't use just we force it to either logical or physical.
Mm.
And when you and some could be also implicit, okay? So let's say if we use something like if I'm rewriting this one, okay, and this was actually kind, could be a rule, or let's say an implicit rule, okay, and then it could be something like that, or kind could be text. Okay, and we can say this. Of course, in these situations, the value would be different. It would be something like description. And what else do we have? We have then we have SQL. And the kind could be you see that the kind will make the arguments different, okay? So we haven't figured out, but it could be also something like kind could be hyphen if we wanted.
Yeah, I like the idea of using kind as the kind of higher level name.
Any other opinion?
At the moment, we're using kind only for the top level thing.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe again, so the reason for the proposal of option 2 was to use Soda's proposal of their quality attributes and just build the quality attributes upon them. So that we do not have to reinvent the wheel. Soda already had made a lot of thoughts in how data quality can be defined. So this is why I personally would follow Soda's idea to make it easy for them to adopt to Bitol standard.
Well, we're not too far from them, okay? They don't have pure SQL, do they? Or they don't have text. So
They don't have text, but they have SQL metric or something. So there is it's pretty similar. Yeah.
and once more, they can. I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
So what Soda is doing is they have the type for the rule type, and then they have the name, which basically says where you can describe it in a the name is basically our description.
Well, the name is I don't know the use name, but for me, name is different than description. Okay, and if you want to reference it somewhere, then I would probably use ID. Sorry, guys. Oops, it's not exactly what I wanted to do. So first, does anyone has a little bit more time? I had a schedule meeting, but I've got to apologize to the person, but I don't mind staying a little bit more.
I could stay on for a little longer.
It would be nice if we could actually if we could yeah, work this thing out a little bit.
Can stay a bit longer.
So essentially, what we're saying is that we're swapping out soda's type with kind at that level, which is fine. I think that's a good substitution. But then I kind of get lost after that.
Well, so soda use types and we, yeah, as you said, we're going there. What that's basically the difference. But the thing is, as much as I have a lot of respect for what soda did, it's ours, okay? So we come from a long way from what was in the original data contract, and we looked at it. We looked also at what Great Expectation was doing, okay? And what, say, there's a lot of people that have great ideas, and the thing is, what I've seen in most companies is that they have their own thing in a way, okay? And you know, Sandra's first question was, how do I put my custom things in, right, Sandra? Uh, so it's great to be compatible with these tools. Here, in the case of either soda or Great Expectation, you can do all we want. We just have to do a little mapping to what they have, and it's really like, it's not a complex mapping. Okay, so it's a rather simple mapping. It's a kind of a one-to-one mapping. In the case of Great Expectation, where they have more complex naming for rules, it's a little bit more of a more complex mapping, but it's also, any intern could do it. So it's also not very, very complex. So we just need to think about the consistency of the contract globally. Okay, so that's what I'm more thinking in terms of, we agreed on a philosophy, because the philosophy is going to be around option 2, which is already the philosophy that is coming from soda. Now it's just a question of naming the properties, and so.
Like, I think kind is a good name because we kind of keep it generic at that high level, such that, you know, if kind represents text or these predefined types or some SQL, and these custom, data quality engines, it makes it quite simple for people or users that come from some custom engine to then just hook straight in, or they've already got their predefined SQL queries for their data quality that they can use kind of straight away. So I think it's clear to me, at least from if I was a user of the data contract, where I could, push in my, existing existing data quality rules if I have them. Plus, I think it keeps it generic enough such that if some new kind comes in the future, whatever that may be, it might be in the case of, there's data observability kind of tools. They might have a slightly different way of doing things, but I think they roughly work the same way. That we keep kind as generic enough to allow for, future developments here. And I think from like, I guess from a tool perspective of reading the data contract, if we have kind that defines, hey, this is kind text or kind SQL. From my perspective, when I'm reading the data contract, it makes it quite clear to me that, okay, these are the parameters that I expect to exist in the contract that I can then use to run data quality rules. And given we're using the JSON schema, we can make those required or whatnot based on the kind.
I'm not sure we can make a decision right now, to be honest. For this. I have to run in a few minutes as well. It doesn't feel like this is something. So we already decided in the direction. Not sure we can. Do we have any other things that we have to discuss? Because I really have to run in 3 minutes. So
okay. So the only thing is number 4, okay, which is something that I think Johan, it's you that it was pushing a little bit towards that, and I would second that, is kind of having a list of, depending of this, if we follow this structure, a list of rules like that we that we could pre-package or pre-define as part of ODCS. And it could be ODCS 3.1 as well. We could actually have a new RFC on that. But the idea was to say, okay, I have we to push it to later point as well. But the idea was to have a library of these rules that was a bit like what Great Expectation is doing. I don't know if Soda has something similar. So maybe we can vote on this part, okay? I think we should do it. Does anyone think we should not do it? A list of rules. All right, everybody. Okay, so I think everybody's kind of worn out. So I will let's try to bring this discussion and solve this discussion within the week in the TSC or in the working group thing. But I would really want to finish that by the end of the week. Okay, so we can move forward and keep our date for having ODCS version 3, or at least a good alpha, a good beta version, a good draft of ODCS by the end of the month. Okay, so then we can and maybe have an official release like in August. Okay, otherwise our timeline will be just fucked up, and we're pushing too far. Okay, does that work with everybody?
We can try.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
We will do it. Okay. Okay. Thanks, guys. This was a very good working session. And well, see you in the channel for more asynchronous discussions then. Okay. Okay. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
Bye.
Cheers.